episode of Win with Glenn, where we have been talking about marriage, and today we will do so with an eternal outlook.
Welcome to the Win with Glenn video podcast, where Glenn Henderson and special guests will give you the tips, insight, and tools you need to grow, develop your business and career. Go with us as we dive into the best practices and rock-solid principles that will elevate you and bring proven success. Now, here's Glenn Henderson.
Hello, everybody. This is Win with Glenn, and we've been talking about marriage, and we're going to continue on that theme. Verdun Woods has been with us as the subject matter expert, the Yoda of marriage. Vernon, thanks so much.
This visual that you got me in this little outfit, and I've got these big ears. I'm not sure how my wife would embrace me as a Yoda, but maybe it could spice up the bedroom. Who knows? You know, we just talked about intimacy.
What I like about Yoda is Yoda comes in real, he comes in just a little slow. He actually has a cane, later on in his life.
Right.
But when it's time to go to war,
Okay.
Yoda is the man. And so I kind of view you in that regard
I'll take
that he may not look like it, but when he has to go to war, you have all of the tools. And so thanks so much for being with us. We've been talking about thrives, and I really appreciate that. And today's topic, eternal outlook, I think is well, all of them are important. So each one stands on their own. Eternal outlook. When you share that with me, I said, "Wow, that truly helps me." And I'm sure you're going to help us, but really understand it's not about, for me, it's not about the here and now. It's not about the moment, but you have to really look beyond. In the scripture, when the question was asked of Jesus, they said, well, who's going to be given in marriage? And, the woman had 7 husbands. And he said, listen, you don't understand the scripture or the powers of God, that it's not about the marriage. And so you have to have an eternal outlook. And so in the book Thrives, what do you mean that you can share with us regarding eternal outlook and our day-to-day interaction with one another?
Okay, so it's twofold. One, certainly, and we talked about this earlier in intimacy, about the important spiritual component of our relationship. Well, the truth is that the marriage relationship was one designed by God. It is a divine covenant rather than a human construct or contract. So that covenantal relationship, it's a permanent commitment that God makes to his people and that we make in marriage to one another. Well, how do we uphold that covenant commitment to one another? I believe that, as with any aspect of life, whether you're single or married, it has to do with your outlook, the vantage point through which and the lens through which you filter your life. And in my case, and in the case of what I believe to be a covenantal marriage relationship, it has to be through that eternal lens, through that vantage point. To give you a quick example of an experience I had flying, and it's probably many people's experience, but I got a particular revelation, if you will, from this experience. Took off one day en route to the West Coast, had a connecting flight in Houston. The morning of, it's a dull, dreary, ugly day. Black looming clouds. It's like, okay, I'm really concerned that I may not make my connecting flight because of these conditions. It took looking at the conditions from the ground, it affected my mood. It affected my outlook on the day, on my travel, and even on how I would feel during my destination. So we take off, and as we do so, we begin to climb, and we climb higher and higher to cruising altitude. At a certain point, we break the cloud cover, and above those dark, gloomy clouds is this amazing day. Same day, was only 5 minutes later, but there are these blue skies, these white fluffy clouds, which was the flip side of the dark looming clouds below, bright sunshine. It's an entirely different perspective on the day. And I heard a voice say to me, you started this day on the ground, looking at this day from your vantage point. But if you would come up a little higher and get into my perspective, you would see that this same day is a sunshiny day, blue skies, white fluffy clouds. It led me to understand that how I evaluate my circumstances in life depends upon the vantage point that I choose. I can choose to look at life from the ground up, or from the heavens down. And an eternal outlook is where I consciously embrace the things that are in the realm of the eternal and the spiritual realm. And it's not a spooky kind of ephemeral kind of view. It's very practical as I approach my life circumstances, all the challenges we've spoken of before that marriages face. And I look at the circumstances and realize, oh, if I can choose to view through a natural lens and through the things that are seen. And those things, we're told in the Bible, are temporary.
Right.
But there is another realm of the unseen world, and these things are eternal. They are lasting, and so the momentary afflictions we face are light in comparison to the glory that we'll see. And I'm not talking about pie in the sky, by and by on the other side of life in heaven. I'm talking about on earth.
Right.
I'm talking about in our day-to-day interactions with our mate and with other people. It's a conscious choice and a conscious surrender of our will and our future and our fate to a higher source of power and ability to proceed in life.
We'll return to the Win with Glenn podcast after this quick message. Join Glenn Henderson on a journey to break free from societal norms and start winning in life and business. Tune in to the Win with Glenn podcast on YouTube for practical tips and insights that will elevate your success.
Hey everybody, this is Glenn Henderson. If you didn't know, you now do know that I have a new book that has been released. It is called Awaken, Breaking Free from Societal Conformity to Unmasked Truth. I want you to get your copy. You can find it on Amazon. You can get it in an e-copy. All the other outlets is available. Get it, read it. I think it'll be a blessing to you.
Glenn Henderson's latest book, Awaken, available now on Amazon and other major book retailers. Awaken dives into the real issues behind the problems we face today: wars, immigration, voting, racism, and more. Glenn invites you to explore how information is weaponized and how we accept it without questioning, keeping us in a delusion. This book challenges you to break free from societal conformity, unmask the truth, and discover independent thinking for real positive change. Awaken will illuminate areas of your thoughts, ideas, and conclusions that you may not have realized you needed to awaken. Visit Amazon or glennhenderson.com to order this book and awaken your journey to success today. And now we return to the Win with Glenn podcast.
So you talk about in the book, in this regard, about enduring and going through things, faith, hope, and love, as in 1 Corinthians 13, and the greatest is love. But how does that live itself out when you refer to it in an eternal outlook? So you're going through hardship, you go the inevitable. There's death, right? There's death. You have a loved one that's passing, and then you have the marriage and the people helping, your spouse and yourself having to care. So I'm trying to just put that right to application of what you're trying to share with us.
Sure.
Well, how does that manifest in what you're telling us in the eternal outlook?
Well, again, it's a view that says that the love that we're talking about is not a natural kind of love that you and I engage in. I love chocolate. I love sports. I love this or that. It is a permanent, lasting reality that we first receive. So it comes to us from God, and then we allow it to work itself through us in practical ways. So in that 1 Corinthians passage, for example, it describes love in ways that are not the natural approach to love. It's when you place the other person's interest above your own. That's not natural, but it is possible.
Okay.
It's a supernatural approach.
Okay.
It's when I make sacrifices on behalf of my mate for nothing less than her good, even if it costs me something.
Okay.
It's being patient. It's being kind. It's not being rude. It's not keeping score, keeping records of wrongs. I've got a journal and I keep every offense that has ever happened. It's releasing those offenses. It's forgiving the other person. There are many other dimensions of it, but that is how it plays itself out in practical terms. It covers a multitude of faults. I happen to have a multitude of faults, so I need that love to cover mine. And I imagine that whereas my wife may not see her multitude of faults quite in the same way that I view it, she's got faults that she has to be covered by my love.
Right. So the eternal outlook, and that's interesting that you just said that, because I was going to ask you, how does this work itself out? And it's almost something that applies to each one of these acronyms when you have one spouse that is there, but the other one isn't. And so since we landed on this one here,
Sure.
Eternal outlook, suppose it's COVID, right? Doing COVID, I tell people that COVID, that mask revealed a lot of things.
Oh, yeah.
The mask revealed, the cover-up revealed a lot of things. And so there was a lot of just different, even between Regina and myself, just different perspectives of what was going on, what was happening, how to handle it, how to address it. And so talk to us a little bit about what that looks like, not who's right and who's wrong,
Sure.
but there's different landing places, right? People are at different places. So my eternal look may look different from yours, as being in the context of spouse. So how does that apply when you're saying love? What does it really look like as you go through difficult times?
Yeah. So again, I think you were alluding to the possibility that one of us has that outlook and the other doesn't.
Or it's just different. We're both saved. We both
Okay.
love the Lord.
Okay.
But it's just different.
Yeah.
And some of it is because of our experiences. Some of it is because of what you've been through. And I know this to be true as I've been speaking to people. But he's both people love the Lord, but
Okay.
they just see things differently. Their eternal outlook is different, and you may never get there, and that's fine. And I heard you say this because you said, well, it's really not about you. You have to. That's when I think I'm hearing you clearly, when it's really not about you. That you have to say, I have to respect your eternal outlook, right? Regardless of where it's at. Is that what you're saying in terms
Well,
of
you're
working through difficulty?
Yeah. So you're talking about perspectives. You're talking about degrees of growth and maturity in things of matters
Which
of
will
faith.
show up in internal outlook, right?
Right. It will definitely. It's not unlike the earlier conversation we had about harmony. It's with the goal of seeking to understand the other's perspective. It's a recognition that their perspective is neither right or wrong necessarily. It's different. It's respecting those differences. It's leveraging those differences. My wife, for example, is much stronger in what I would call faith, especially for big things. And in my pragmatic mind, I struggle with, making that phone call to that person about
Right.
that $15 million property
Right.
and
Right.
say, hey, let's go see it. And I
Right.
don't have 15,000 in the bank. She's like, make the call.
Right.
On the other hand, so that's faith. On the other hand, trust. I feel in our relationship that I have a stronger level of trust where, in spite of circumstances to the contrary, I'm willing to, I don't get rattled. I don't get anxious over things that she does.
Right.
And so we're constantly in that yin and yang, but we recognize each other's strengths. And so when my faith is weak, hers is strong, I leverage that, and vice versa when it comes to trust.
Got it, yeah.
So that's I think it's the answer to how can we have different perspectives
Right.
and still respect
No,
one another.
and I think now you've helped us think through that, and thank you. That eternal outlook is now I'm getting it and hearing. I believe what you're saying is that we have to learn that, in the eternal outlook is to accept. How many times I've said that what God has made He's put in, she's fearfully and wonderfully made.
Right.
And her attributes and whatever they may be is what he's put in her, and what he has is for me, and that eternal outlook without me trying to change and manipulate will be one of the bases of success. This thrives and I love it too, is we put these things to practice, and that's part of our rock solid principles. Then you will have, in this regard, keys. Then those keys will cause you to thrive. Thanks, Vernon, for joining us. We have one more to go, and we'll see you next time. This is Win with Glenn. We're going to continue on this theme in marriage. I'll see you on our next installment.
Thank you for joining us for the Win with Glenn video podcast. Stay connected by following and subscribing to this podcast on these platforms. Join us every week as Glenn and special guests give you the tools you need to grow and have a successful business or career. Join Glenn Henderson on a journey to break free from societal norms and start winning in life and business. Tune in to the Win with Glenn podcast on YouTube for practical tips and insights that will elevate your success.
Hey everybody, this is Glenn Henderson. If you didn't know, you now do know that I have a new book that has been released. It is called Awaken, Breaking Free from Societal Conformity to Unmasked Truth. I want you to get your copy. You can find it on Amazon. You can get it in an e-copy. All the other outlets is available. Get it, read it. I think it'll be a blessing to you.
Glenn Henderson's latest book, Awaken, available now on Amazon and other major book retailers. Awaken dives into the real issues behind the problems we face today: wars, immigration, voting, racism, and more. Glenn invites you to explore how information is weaponized and how we accept it without questioning, keeping us in a delusion. This book challenges you to break free from societal conformity, unmask the truth, and discover independent thinking for real positive change. Awaken will illuminate areas of your thoughts, ideas, and conclusions that you may not have realized you needed to awaken. Visit Amazon or glennhenderson.com to order this book and awaken your journey to success today.